And there we go. Hello, everybody. We're doing the ranking videos again. Turns out the first one did so well, we might as well. Yeah, a lot less of a lead-in on this one since we did most of the setup for this and the first vid. If this is your first time being here for these, go back and watch the first one. That's where we did the primary mecha and gave a listing of how we were doing this. Though we have a better setup this time because I'm not trying to mess with green screen. So yeah, secondary mecha. Usually the second full mecha that debuts in a Super Sentai and Power Ranger series. They get off in their own category because they are kind of a mix of what a team gravitates to, what a few members of the main team pilot, etc., etc. They've been kind of shoved earlier and earlier in series, so then we then have the Final Form mecha and the auxiliary mecha that usually debut past the halfway points. And because of that, we're not including the Go Rangers Very Doreen as a secondary mecha. We're counting it as its final mecha if we get to those bullet points on the list. And if you know us, Alexis is going to strangle me if we don't make the GOAT for this obvious.
Yeah.
But we will get there when we get there. For those who also might ask, Tsubasa Maru, aka the Falcon Zord, we are counting as a armament / auxiliary / super mecha because it's not a full mecha on its own, so we're probably just going to shove it in the armaments thing because it becomes an armament / flight backpack for the Kaku Ranger mecha.
Yeah, so it's like secondary mecha is something that has to transform into a completely unique mode all on its own, you know.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Like, there's stuff like Gal Muscle, aka the Congo Zord, that has some... Due to the limited number of actual leg units in Gal Ranger, it's always going to share a pair of legs with another combination. But with Gal Ranger, the torso sections define which mecha is its own distinct thing.
Yeah.
So obviously, as you can see it on the list, Gal Muscle is here for that one. So we're going to start this off with Flashman, the first series to actually have any type of secondary mecha, with Titan Boy.
Titan Boy. That sounds like a Cartoon Network show, right?
It kind of does.
Yeah, Titan Boy.
Yeah. The funny thing is they're trucks, and I have a theory on why they were super trucks for a couple years. Optimus Prime.
Yeah. I mean,
early 80s, well, 1984, technically mid-80s. Mid-80s were ruled by Optimus Prime.
Like, Optimus Prime is our Lord and Savior. He's defeater of the Decepticons. He died for our sins. Like, this is just another way of homaging him. You know? Yeah,
so it makes sense. There is a logic to why Showa Secondary Mecha kept going to him as the template for a super mech, even though, of course, they did not get Shoji Kawamori to design them.
But as far as Titan Boy here,
I like the shoulder guns.
Yeah, shoulder guns are pretty nice. Like, he has a nice door. I like the cut of his jib. He looks like he's happy to be there, you know?
It's the transformation is definitely silly because it goes back to the Takara Optimus Prime convoy problem of the arms come from doors and the legs come from the rear spoiler, and they didn't exactly vary that up very much.
Yeah, but considering, like, this is the first secondary mech and a pattern hadn't even been established yet, I want to kind of put him in the acceptable...
Yeah, it's like baseline.
Baseline. He is our base boy.
Yeah. I need to select the slideshow because it's being silly, and I've not used the slideshow function here much. Yeah, this is Great Titan. This is Titan Boy plus its trailer, which would actually be a couple years before Takara would figure out how to do that with
Ultra Magnus?
Actually, I completely forgot about Ultra Magnus and the powered convoy system. No, I was thinking about God Jinrai. But God Jinrai definitely looks better in its configuration than this because it's just getting in the back of the trailer and it unfolds a pair of limbs, and then it just hovers and shoots things.
Yeah, it's like once again, it's
pretty much acceptable. I like it less than Titan Boy normal, but it's again an example of Toei Bandai didn't really know what to do beyond the base mecha for a bunch of stuff in those years, and this was definitely a sign of both of them aping something else.
Yeah,
early on, so it's hard to fault it versus other years. This is Galaxy Robo. It is another truck.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I'm putting that one in clearance.
It's the chest nipples, isn't it?
No, it's not the chest nipples, okay?
It's the chest laser nipples.
No. Listen, first of all, breast fire. So, like, if I were to...
That is at least a panel.
But, okay, first off, maybe it was cold outside that day. Maybe he's just happy to see us. But, no, my issue is his spindly long arms. I mean, Davis...
They are a bit disproportionate.
I mean, like, don't his arms look a little long?
Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
Why? His arms look a little bit long, don't you think?
We've seen Wild Blue yonder, if you couldn't tell. If you haven't watched the 14th Doctor specials, they're actually really good. Yeah, for what season is this from? Asks Spidey Reviews. This is from Mask Man. Yeah, apparently, though, the weird thing about this is special trivia for those who've not seen Mask Man. The Galaxy Robo, this is what defeated their big bad.
How?
Yes.
Did he also power his nipple shoot thing?
Yeah, so anyways, I kind of think it's bland than anything. John is asking if we can pick him up.
That's actually kind of appropriate because I wanted sandwiches.
No, he's asking if I can do it right now.
Oh, right now? Oh,
yeah.
No.
No, we cannot do that.
No, we cannot do that.
Yes. So anyways, Life Boxer.
Light Boxer, I think we have no choice but to put that in hype tier.
I kind of agree. Like, first mecha piloted by add-on 2 members who are not Sixth Rangers. They didn't come up with the Sixth Ranger concept yet. So it works for that. One of them splits into the legs, the upper splits in the upper body. It is unfortunately a bit of a parts former, again, because they didn't know what they were doing, but it gets points for it, its disassembly making sense in the context of it being around to basically become the super mecha parts for Super Live Robo, which is the first super mecha combination, and we will be reasserting that when we actually get to doing the special combinations lists, because that's not a final form mecha, because they hadn't introduced... There's not a final or ultimate form mecha because they hadn't really introduced those concepts yet. Yeah,
and now I will also say that the reason I would put it in hype but not peak is Live Man's biggest plot hole is that
where did they come from?
They try to backhand say, "Oh, we're actually those your friends who got killed at the beginning. We're their siblings," and it's like, but why were you never mentioned before now? It's like the definition of you come out of nowhere. You're cool as heck, but where did you come from?
And unfortunately, Live Man is so old that why that happened, either the show is doing badly or the show is doing amazing, so they wanted to cash in on it with more characters and late end stuff. We have no idea which way it's supposed to go on that. It's like, or it could also be the case of it was doing badly, but it was considered in retrospect to be an amazing series. We only have ratings and a few sales information things that are somewhat inconsistent on that. So yeah, we're going hype for Live Boxer. Turbo Rangers Turbo Rugger.
Wait, that's from Turbo Ranger?
Yes.
Why does that look way better than the actual main mech?
I know.
Like, that has no business coming from Turbo Ranger.
It unfortunately looks worse once they actually get to the combination, because then it's like, it's the main mecha on stilts, and with this is like chassis parts.
Yeah, but for this Robo as is, like, if you told me, like, what series did that come from, I would have said Car Ranger, but I already know what Car Ranger robots look like,
Yeah, so. Honestly, this would make more sense to be a mecha that would defeat the big bad than Galaxy, the Maskman's Galaxy Robo. So yeah, I want to put that. It follows the red, blue, white aesthetic of prior Sentai mecha as well. Yeah, so I kind of want to put that in higher than Light Boxer, but not quite to peak yet.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, look, we said something nice about Turbo Ranger.
Yeah. This is StarFive. And okay, this is the third secondary mecha that becomes parts for the bigger combination. The problem I've always had with StarFive is its jet mode looks nothing like this. It basically disassembles in a way that brings out all the red, and I'm always confused by it.
It's a Zeta Gundam problem.
It's kind of the Zeta Gundam problem.
Like, where it like how it transforms into the other form, you're not entirely sure how it does that, you know?
And plus, it ends up calling back to the first two secondary mecha they did in its aesthetic, so it's a bit more copycat.
Mm-hmm.
And a bit less interesting, to be honest. I kind of want to put it top of uninspired, because it's not as bad as, Galaxy Robo again.
Yeah, not as bad, but...
Yeah. Jet Garuda. Peak. No, this is the proper color balance. This is the proper... It has its own proper fighter mode. It combines in multiple ways with the base machines. It has kick-ass claws. It actually keeps the bird theme more dynamic while staying aesthetically similar. Now, the one big problem with that is Jet Garuda was not built by the Jetman. They inherited it from a trio of other guys from another dimension, which is its own thing, but...
Yeah.
I could see them reconfiguring it. I could see maybe the prop team not finishing the colors on it and then the Jetman recolor it to their stuff after they finish rebuilding it. But they obviously, the show was made in the early 90s when Sentai was not in good shape at all and Jetman saved the series. So I can see them either not having the budget for that kind of plotting or they weren't really thinking about it, especially because this was Toshiki Inoue a lot of the time.
But also, you gotta give credit to the... I know we're not talking about the combinations just yet, but how it combines with, like, the beginning sequence for combining with Jet Icarus, which is just like a bro handshake, you wanna...
The beginnings of the bro handshake.
Yeah. Like, any mecha series that does the bro handshake before a transformation.
Yeah. So anyways, Zyuranger, Die Ranger, and Kaka Ranger, aka MMPR Seasons 1, 2, and 3, do not have any secondary mecha. It is either a 6th mecha, or it is a primary mecha, a 6th mecha, or an auxiliary mecha all the way down. This includes, like, Ninjor. We are going to count Ninjor, aka Ninja Man, and his samurai forms in the auxiliary mecha, because technically going Titan... It counts for mecha, and we have to count, like, Titan forms to count stuff like Maji King, aka the Mystic Force Megazord. Or, not the Mystic Force Megazord. What was the actual name of the Mystic Force's King's Megazord? Because
I know it's called Maji King.
Maji King and Maji Ranger, yeah. I'm forgetting it off the top of my head. So it's always the one I blank on. But yeah, that changed with Red Puncher, aka the Red Battlezord. I love this thing. I carried it around all the time as a kid, so I have big nostalgia leanings for this. It has Gatling hands for boxing gloves.
Punch, 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 punch. I'm doing the dancing routine. What? Like,
Titan Megazord. Thank you, Cure Crystal. I always blank on that one.
Yeah. It's not what you think it would be called, you know?
DJ Toku, would that include Maji Mother 2? That's a good question, because she doesn't really have a transformation, she just grows giant, whereas Ninja Man actually has a transformation into Samurai Man. That requires him to go giant.
I would say, let's include it to support our local moms.
We'll have to put a pin in that, we might forget it, I apologize if we do. But yeah, I love Red Puncher.
Like, also, I mean, look at the gold piston arms, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the gold, like the... It's so aesthetically pleasing, how it interacts with the other mech, like...
Now, the weird part is, like, I know nothing about boxing, but do they have the same wrestling belt kind of thing going for them? Because that's how the O-Ranger/Zeo team logo is displayed.
Boxing championship belts can be it's ridiculous, you know what I mean?
Okay, so that makes sense then for all that. Otherwise, you know, I wish it would have had, like, opening arms so they could do a few wrestling gimmicks with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is peak for me. Yeah. I actually like it a bit more than Jet Garuda. And we're just going to keep the peak train rolling with Delta Mega. It's like, no, I bought a second set of the Mega Ranger mini plot. This thing fucking slaps.
It does. Like,
it's like solid space jet mode, solid robot mode, excellent combination. We will be gushing about the combination later. It is even more peak. Ironically, Jet Garuda is the balance between red and black, while Delta Mega goes more black and Red Puncher goes more red. Okay, anyone who knows us knew where this was going to happen next.
This is what sex looks like.
Grand Liner, aka the Super Train Megazord.
This is sex right here. This is what a peak secondary mecha should be. If your guy or girl does not look like this, you need to dump them on the side of the road, because it ain't gonna get any better than this. Look, I have loved this thing since I was a kid, because it's just... It is the embodiment of everything I love about Super Sentai Power Rangers Mecha, in that some harebrained genius in, like, the Lightspeed Rescue Team.
Some people thought we were going to count this as an auxiliary mecha. Oh, no.
No. This is the secondary mecha, as in it is the second mech to debut that is also the carrier Zord, but it's also the secondary mecha that just towers over all other fools like the boss king that it is. It's just... Oh my gosh, where do I begin? Okay, how it debuts cannot be understated of how awesome it is. It goes off a rocket ramp railway that they somehow built with, like, who knows how much untold money, that flies into the sky, splits apart, transforms in midair, comes sliding back down on perfectly proportioned railways. Like, screw your physics. I don't need your physics in Super Sentai. I need a giant train robot. Like, Tokyo looks at this guy with jealousy. This is a train robot right here. Like, you know, fight missile, like, you know, heat wave gun thing.
I recently built the Tokyudra mini plot, and this can bench press them. Literally, like, it's like a quarter smaller. It's in my room.
Yeah. Freeze missiles, like, you know, it may not have a lot of armaments, but it's heavy metal awesome that will tower over you and beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
It's just...
Since I saw the question in the chat, Final Mecha, aka Mecha the team moves primarily to using in the back half of the series, they're in the Final Mecha category. Car Ranger does not have a secondary mecha. It has an extra unit mecha, an auxiliary mecha, and a final mecha. This is the same problem Gingaman has with Gigabytus and the two mecha that form out of that. They debut too late, and otherwise they have them piloted by an extra ranger.
It's just...
That's why we skipped both Car Ranger and Gingaman on that. They don't have anything that qualifies for this list.
And, like... I'm just going to keep gushing about this thing because I don't think I'll ever get a chance to do it on a live stream. Or maybe I will. I'm just going to make my hyperfixation everybody's problem today, okay? Look, I think a secondary mecha should provide something to a team that wasn't present in the original machine. Like, the original machine is a good, solid, all-around base unit, right? But this thing was called in to deal with, like, two disaster scale monster threats, and when it shows up, just it looks down on them like, what are you gonna do?
Speed and utility versus just sheer physical power.
Yeah, so yeah, top of peak.
Yep, I knew that was where it was gonna go. Meanwhile, Time Shadow. I gush over all Time Ranger mecha. This is no different. This is another example of primary black with its accenting colors adding so very much to it. It is a stealth fighter with giant cannons that has its own time gate on it to provide secondary equipment for its combinations. It is a fucking ninja. It makes it so that the day turns to night. It
comes out of the freaking moon.
Its debut was so amazing, and then it got shunted to always being super armor.
Which is a shame because it has arm blades, it runs super fast, it's like...
I cannot remember a lot of times where it was used as its own mecha past its debut. And to be fair, To be fair,
To be fair.
that happened with a lot of secondary mecha later on. It's just Time Ranger was one of the more notable examples of that, because there were a lot of times where they could have used like 2 mecha in battle.
Toku fan said, shame it never combined with Time Jet Gamma.
Yeah, that is another reason why it's actually going to still go to peak, but be under Jet Garuda, because the Time Ranger mecha drew a lot of inspiration from that of Jetman's in how they combine. Like, they have similar combined jet mode, and they add on top of the Jetman combination system a secondary forms for that. But the fact that the Time Shadow does not combine with Time Jet Gamma is a big reason why it's still peak. I still love it, but it's not going to rate as highly as Jet Garuda because it lacks functionality. Okay, Gal Muscle, aka the Congo Zord.
Get in the Congo line?
Get in the Congo line. Yeah, I want to go hype for this.
Yeah, it's hype. Like, it's only going hype because 3 of the components are new, but it shares 2 other components, like the torso and the waist, where the eagle is.
Now, they did do a good setup reason for why they would need it, in that the power of the bears was just too much for the lion to handle until they got Soulbird. And then after they got Soulbird, they kind of used this a lot less, as obviously the Soulbird could heal any of them and the animals that were injured to form the combinations. And then it usually got stuck on the B list a lot of the time.
But in terms of armaments, we have anchors, banana bombs,
cannons over the shoulders.
Over the shoulder cannons, like
the fact that they used the Gao Gorilla mold to make Gao Knight, and Gao Knight is awesome. We will be gushing about it in the movie debut list if we get that far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to put it top of hype because it's a good mech. It's just, it ends up not doing as much as the other power animals.
Mm-hmm.
Though, yeah, Strike, the reason why it's not shown in Striker combination is that debuted later, and all of the various power animal combinations we will be talking about that are not part of the standard combination, I should say, will be talked about in the armament list. That's why you didn't see us gush about a dozen different Gao King forms in the primary mecha list. We're saving those. Mm-hmm. The only exception to that being Juoger's mechs, because the alternate combinations were part of each member's primary mecha, so we kind of have to count them there as part of those standard combinations. Mm-hmm. Okay, Go Raijin, aka the Thunder Megazord.
When SMP.
Like, I wish that was its own category.
Yeah,
but yeah, I would adore if Shokugan would get on finally making SMPs of the Hurricane mechs. Our current split on their clues is 5x5, so that could mean Go-Go is in the Bokendra mechs, or 5-man, or like it could mean several different things. It could mean they're finally doing Victory Mars because Go-Go 5, that illusion.
The fact that they have not released SMP Victory Mars is a crime against me specifically.
Yeah. This is also the first time Toei has done anything with... Okay, now I shouldn't say the first time, because obviously we had the Metal Hero series, but in Sentai, I should specify, had any type of insect-themed mecha, and
Actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Ironically, because, King Oger is selling gangbusters. Yeah. Speaking of which, the Legend Shoe Gods are not here because they all serve as armament mecha for the core King Oger combinations. So they're under armament mecha. Another thing I want to clarify before anybody asks about it, I had a question earlier about how people think we like King Oger. We love King Oger. It is a fantastic series. We've mentioned this multiple times in previous streams and even in the previous tier listing video.
Yeah, but... if something's peak, we won't mind, gushing about it for a brief second or two, especially if you're new to the chat or something.
Yeah. The only issue with the Hurricane mechs, though, is until Senpujin debuts, is it's overwhelmingly blue.
Yeah, not enough of the crimson.
Yeah, I mean, the crimson is under the claw, but it's not really overt.
Right. I would think, you would put more crimson on the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that would interfere with the black of the treads.
Yeah.
And then it would mess with the aesthetic of the combination. So, Go Raijin definitely hurts. I kind of want to put it bottom of hype.
Bottom of hype, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so just so we get this clear as well, Abaranger does not have secondary mecha. It has 6th mecha, armaments, auxiliary, movie mecha, and 2 final forms. It does not, because those are the only forms that construct a full collective mech. Deca Ranger has the same problem. It has a final mecha, it does not have a secondary mecha. It has a 6th Ranger mecha, and it has an extra Ranger mecha in the form of the Deca base. So that is another one that doesn't qualify for this. So on we go to Fire Kaiser, aka the Centaurus Phoenix Megazord. It is obviously Maji Red combining with Barkuron and the Phoenix Titan form combining with Catastros.
Yeah, I think Acceptable has been getting a lot of love recently.
I kind of think it doesn't do a lot.
It doesn't do a lot. Like, it doesn't do anything that much more different than what came before. It's just a new chess piece, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with all the Magi Ranger mechs, in that they can swap what's in the chest, but that's the only variance it really gets.
Yeah, it's like, it's acceptable.
Yeah, it is definitely acceptable. I'd honestly put it top of acceptable.
Top of acceptable.
Yeah, speaking of which, I believe I may mention this in the main mecha video. We're not including the toy-exclusive chest swaps for alternate forms, so you're not going to see us do Trevelyan in the core of Maji King or Barkion for that, or Woolzard in the center of any of the other combinations that isn't...
like, it's something you can do, and it's really nice, but...
And for people wondering why we're doing this first and not Woolzard's combinations, Woolzard is an extra ranger. So we're doing it among the extra ranger mecha. Which is going to be a mixed 6th and extra ranger mechas, just so we're clear. Moving on, we have Bokenger and Die Tanken, aka the dual drive Megazord.
I do like Bokenger, but
just to preempt the chat, it debuted in a movie, but all its component pieces debuted in the show, so it does not count as a movie exclusive mecha. That is why it is here.
And it also was used more than twice, so like...
It was not used more than twice. I have it here, episodes 40 and 42.
That's what I was probably thinking of.
Yeah, so while those are set after the movie, and it did first appear in the movie, all of its component pieces debuted before the movie itself, so it doesn't count as one.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, have your rant.
It's uninspired. Look, I understand what it's going for, and I do like the idea of using like all the auxiliary Zords and combining into its own thing. My issue was the jet as the main body doesn't aesthetically work with me. You know, like Die Tanken's head just being the front of the plane with
the nose cone
flipped up, like it doesn't really do much for me, and like it's just kind of there. It feels like it doesn't feel like a form born out of creativity. It feels like a form that was born out of, we gotta make the Go-Go jet more than just a wing pack. You know what I mean?
And I looked it up. There weren't exactly a lot of combined packs of the Die Tanken form. It was either a release of all of the base Bokendra mecha plus the 4 auxiliary machines that form Super, or it was individual pieces. I could not find a single Die Tanken collective box.
Yeah, and
so it wasn't advertised much, and even then, aesthetically, it's just the super form arms plus the shoes turned into just legs, thanks to how their combination works. And hey, fair to the designers and actually, retaining a bit more of how that aesthetic works. I like how Mixer and Crane look when used as arms with the Bokendra mecha, but it kind of doesn't really work with Die Tanken as... Well, they're not doing much more. The fact that they can be arms, legs, and shoe units is a showcase of how versatile the Bokendra line can be. But it would also work better if, like, Drill and Shovel could do all those combinations as well.
Yeah, and also, think about this, like, Go-Go Jet has its wings out, right? To form Die Tanken, it's like pulling its arms back, right?
But if the wings could fold back better, that would be fine. But then when you look at it straight on in the back, it doesn't look good at all.
Right. It just, yeah.
So yeah, I'm actually going to put it middle uninspired.
Yeah, middle of it uninspired.
Yeah. Moving on, Geki Fire, aka the Jungle Master Megazord. Okay, first of all, just to confirm for people, I have gotten every mini-plot from Geki Ranger onwards. This is me being silly. This is me being silly with how the Geki Ranger armaments works, and it's like, but onto the actual quality of this as a mech, it has a penguin for a leg, and it's not a peg leg. Like, I feel like that should be a peg leg for some reason.
I feel like Geki Fire fares a lot better than Geki Toja does, simply because it has more dynamic colors going on.
The color is better separated.
Yeah, but once again, we're dealing with Geki Ranger's biggest sin in that everything is in service to the gimmick.
Yeah, it definitely overplayed the gimmick.
Right, and the fact that once again, yellow and blue are just... I mean... Like, yes, there are other Sentai teams where yellow and blue, like, two Rangers are just legs, but at least, like, the red is the centerpiece and, like, somebody else are the arms, right?
Or other accessories in the case of King Odra that help build up the aesthetic.
Yeah, whereas with this, it's, like, once again, primarily all red's doing, and the other two are just feet. And you can make it look nice and pretty, but it's the same problem, you know?
Yeah. VID reviews, Geki Elephant Back Shark Fire, nice. Actually, Bad is not on this one. Bad is on Side-Dye Ren Geki Toja. But yeah, the proportionality is also a bit weird, and unfortunately, the white of Penguin and Gazelle it's a bit more obnoxious because it stands out as it really doesn't fit the fire theme.
Yeah, it's just, okay, why a gorilla, a penguin, and a gazelle?
Well, you see, I once went to Africa and saw a gazelle. That is a SF Debris joke for people who are wondering. I've never actually been to Africa.
As far as you know.
As far as I know. But yeah, I'm gonna rate that uninspired as well.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a bit worse than Die Tanken, because Die Tanken at least was reusing things that go into a better aesthetic, whereas Geki Fire is reusing the combination schema and not really improving it much. Okay, Gunpuro, aka the Valve Max Megazord.
I have the RPM version of this toy.
The RPM DX toy, whereas I have the mini plot, and this is basically a mecha that is designed to be combined into another thing that still has to serve as its own mecha.
And fortunately, like, even as a toy, like, Cargator is cool. Like,
Gator is cool.
Yeah, he is. But when you get to the actual combination and how the how the feet form and everything, it's okay.
Yeah, Unacceptable is looking a bit slim as it is at the moment.
So, acceptable.
Yeah. Not actually have much for clearance. We might have to move a couple things down once we get farther down the list to fit the bell curve. Okay, Die Tanken. It counts. A number of the main Shinkener pilot this on their own. That's how that works. It is not. It forms its own mecha. It might not be human form, but it counts more than Tsubasamaru, aka the Falcon Zord.
Where would you put this personally? Because I have an idea. I want to hear your thoughts first.
It is unfortunately harmed by the aesthetic of the machines that are forming it. It's like Landcat, Landcat, Ground Beetle, and Shark somehow form a bird.
I mean, that's how evolution works, like, don't you know?
Does it, though?
I mean, I think it does.
It also loses points that in every combination past this, it basically just... I have the Shinkener mini plot here. It goes onto the back of everything and just is left as an extra add-on piece.
I think I would put it in clearance, to be honest.
Sure, surface. I like the individual mechs. I like their combined form better than their armament forms, but yeah, it kind of does fit into clearance for me. Moving on. Data's Hyper.
Clearance.
Yeah.
Look, it is just an arcade machine with boxing gloves.
And a new hat.
It's got a new hat.
Yeah. And I still think it was a bad decision for Megaforce to skip it, because if they were going to skip it, they needed to skip the combination that it is a necessity to form. But yeah, it's not... Like, it doesn't serve a lot of use. I think if they were going to use it, they just needed to have some... If Megaforce was going to need to use Hyper, they needed to just have a single episode where it debuted for, like, the character Tenso getting in an arcade machine, possessing it, and then turning it into this.
Yeah, it's like a... And yes, this is Go Sager, but I would also like to point out that in terms of combination, this thing just becomes a backpack, whereas... what was it? O-Boxer?
Yeah.
Yeah, O-Boxer.
Red Puncher.
Red Puncher. Like, it at least has enough on its own 2 feet, but then when it turns into the backpack, it has, like, those guns. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And people might ask why this is not a auxiliary mecha for Ghost Sager. It's, again, has to do with when in the series the unit debuted and what it is in... service to. It's in service of the super mode. It has to be a secondary mecha.
Yeah. So,
clearance. I think Die Tanken actually services such a bit better.
Yeah.
And again, at least Datus, and credits to Datus, when they introduce the Mystic machines, it gets a bit of a ability boost from that, which is another reason why it's not an auxiliary. It debuts too early for that. And it gets further combinations when auxiliary mecha usually don't. Moving on. Go Kaiser, Go Busters, and Kyoryuger do not have secondary mecha. Go Kaiser has armaments, 6th and auxiliary. Go Busters are 6th, movie and auxiliary, and Kyoryugers are all ranger specific, so they either go in 6th and extra or armaments. Whereas Tokyuger, there was no working around this. This is a secondary mecha.
Yeah. By all accounts of when it debuts and what it functions as, it is a secondary mecha. Granted, I like it more than Tokyo itself because at least it's doing something.
It has a bit more of an aesthetic flair to it.
Right. But I can't see myself, like, going gaga for this thing either, you know?
And plus the legs on the toys are ridiculously disproportionate because both the car carrier and tanker reshes have to have multiple pieces to them to become either a really long arm or 2 arm components.
Yeah, and so while it is better, as a secondary mecha,
it's still boring.
Yeah, it's still boring, like...
And honestly, I put it down here-ish? Any debates on that?
No debates on that.
Yeah. So then we... speaking of this list, Ninja does not have secondary mecha. It has armament mecha that send the chair as alternates, a 6th ranger mecha, and auxiliary mecha in the form of Lion Hao, a final mecha, and 2 ultimate forms for the auxiliary and final mechas. Thus, we are at Duo Wild. 654.
It has a gun.
That is a gun.
Wait, does that monkey have a gun? Wait, is that a monkey? He's got a gun!
Yeah, unfortunately, Brick Boys.
Yep. I mean, it's nice. Like, I don't think it's acceptable, I think.
It is, well,
I don't really have
acceptable.
much more to say about it other than I look at it and go, yeah, it's a mech.
I'd put it above,
I'd put it above Cargator too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else is there?
Duo Wild 623.
I kind of like this one better than the main combination itself, actually, because it's just the gun, you know?
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
And from there, Duo Wild Special, aka Duo Wild 6534, with Mogura and giraffe on the sides. Technically, we have it's the base of the combination. I can't get rid of them just because there are auxiliaries in there.
I would
His legs are longer.
And my legs are a lot. Don't his legs look a little bit longer to you?
His legs are a little longer.
But I mean, would you? I don't think we should stuff it in an acceptable.
Yeah, this is a bit uninspired because while the toys can do it, there's not a lot of point of why they had to make a suit for this for just one use.
Right. If it's like, why did you do that?
Yeah. And one more for this mix. Jewel Wild 653.
I would put it on like uninspired because the color combination just looks weird to me.
Yeah, it does. And now back to this. Q Ranger does not have secondary mecha. It has 6 extra movie and auxiliary, which all have pilots. Lupat does not have any secondary mecha. It has armament, 6th, and movie, as otherwise all the mecha form around Good Striker. Ryu Soldier likewise does not have secondary mecha, as the robot mode Kishiryu are a 6th movie and auxiliary mech respectively. Moving on, that leaves us...
Smog Jokey.
Smog Jokey.
I actually like this boy.
It is a dinosaur train robot that glitters.
With a chainsaw tail.
With a chainsaw tail.
You gotta admit, that's a pretty cool combination, right?
Yeah. By the way, if we do an evil mecha list, we will have to resubmit Smog Jokey because it is technically a villain mecha that is later turned good when Juru
hijacks it.
Not just hijacks it, gains ownership of it after Garza's death.
Yeah.
Spoilers for Kira Major, it's actually a really good series. Mm-hmm. And it definitely counts as a secondary mecha just because of when it debuts in the series and because the next secondary mecha we have to talk about actually debuts early enough for it to count as a secondary mecha. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's a good question, D-Day Toku. Chainsaw tail versus drilled tail.
Ooh.
Is like both technically
are technically valid in their own ways.
Yeah, it's like actually that's a good point. Power Tool Dragon. It's a quip spell card. Saw and drill. Yeah. Media reviews. It's literally a crystalline train version of Triptychon, and I love it. So yeah,
actually, that that he like that guy's cooking. He makes a solid point.
I want to say bottom of hype.
Bottom of hype, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. King Express, aka King Express Jakku when Garza has control of it. I gotta say the King Liner component actually throws off the aesthetic.
It really does.
It reached the point where I recolored the mini-pla to be black, purple, and crystalline purple and gold to actually make the aesthetic look better for all of that. It's like, I know we're not counting customs, I just had to bring this up because I feel like this makes it look better. Mm-hmm. So that's going to dock some points, but it is otherwise acceptable, and it actually is used well, and its limitations of use, fighting between Juru being good with his abilities, and while Garza's still piloting Smog Jokey to make it a fight over whether that can actually do his job. That actually is pretty interesting for a dynamic, which had its point defeated later on. So I want to say acceptable?
Acceptable, top of acceptable.
Yeah. Versus King Express Zaboon, which...
Hype.
Yeah.
Like, this thing has... Like, it can swim through land.
It's like, we know they designed it. It would not surprise me if Zaboon was originally supposed to be the movie mech. That was the rumor at the time. But the way they managed to integrate it into the series itself as
did it feel unnatural at all?
No, it did not. It wouldn't surprise me if they scrapped the movie plans and just integrated them into the core series with how it was all utilized. Mm-hmm. You know, since Kira Major did not get a summer movie because of the pandemic.
Which is unfortunate. Like, who knows how many plans went sideways because of the pandemic.
Yeah. We will actually have to revisit Zaboon because of it being capable of being used as armament mecha for the other Kira Major mechs. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it could do those armaments as well as form this King Larger combination made it all good. And yeah, I want to say it's a peak mecha just because it brings the aesthetic together in the way that base King Express did not. And ironically, it's one of the few overwhelmingly white mecha in Super Sentai. So I want to say core peak.
Core peak.
Yeah. But there is no more arguments here. It is the only secondary mecha we have left because Dawn Brothers and King Ogre, as we said, do not have secondary mecha. They have 6th and auxiliary and armament. Super Zenkaiser. Super Zenkaiser.
It's clearance.
Yeah.
Like, I know some people like this thing. I don't care. It is, like, this is the nostalgia baiting right here.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Go Kaiser may have its issues with its, but at the very least with the tribute mecha, it never interferes with the main pirate aesthetic. You know what I mean? Or heck, like, at least, like, Pat Striker or Maji Dragon have, like, Go Kaiser, symbols on it and stuff. This is just...
It is referencing every other 6th and extra dinosaur mecha that it's just... It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And by the way, the reason why we don't have Zenkaiser as its own category is it has 2 entries in this, and the entries are small enough for this that I didn't feel like it would interfere that much with the list this time to do it. Whereas we all know that I'm forgetting the guy's name.
Kito?
Zox's mecha and Zenkaiser are definitely going to be near the clearance line when we do the 6th and extra list. But yeah, it's like this. I know it's supposed to be a super form that can go giant to be its own battle companion, like they were doing with the rest of that. And by the way, we will have to talk about this again when we get to proper super combinations. But nothing about this really works. Like, again, I have the mini plot, and it's in the wrong mode, but it is so spindly because it has to accommodate all the different forms they want to do with it, and none of them really work.
Yeah, it's like it's trying to be a master of all, but fails at none of them.
It's it had and this is then Zenkaiju O, the combination of Kito and Zox in there.
It sucks.
It's like I could try and justify it, but no, it is just so overtly homaging Dragon Caesar mixed with the V-Rex/Q-Rex, and no.
It's like, again, this is pure nostalgia baiting. The Q-Rex, awesome. Dragon Caesar, awesome.
Go Jujin did this better because Go Jujin knew that it could homage those things, but still have its own identity as a unique mech with all its configurations. Speaking of which, Go Jujin will be ranking highly when we get to the 6th and extra list.
Yeah, but also look at the hands. It's not even real.
It's not claws, it's missiles.
It's just missiles.
It's like the cool thing about Dragon Caesar's hands was they could be hands, but the tips could shoot missiles.
Yeah, like the original Mecha Godzilla could,
Or even beyond that, Gunbuster.
Yeah, but that's just, those aren't really hands. Those are missile hands. And that, to me, just sucks.
It's meshing up, again, it's meshing up Dragon Caesar and V-Rex in the worst possible ways, and then it also has a flight mode that is supposed to homage Go Jujin that's more based on parts forming to accommodate the other gimmicks than anything. So yeah, this is clearance as well. I actually think it's in dinosaur mode looks better than the super form, but it's not by a lot.
Not by a lot, no.
I'm going to move King Express up to hype just to rebalance.
Yeah.
And
knock
Galaxy down to top of clearance. So
yeah,
we get a bit more of a bell curve effect when we go to addressing Go to Donate, which is right now. Yeah, mediocre reviews. The worst part about Super Zenkaiser is lazy. Absolutely lazy. It's the entire show. It is anything Shirakura does is overtly lazy.
Like, look, I understand that Zenkaiser has its defenders.
We are not among them,
We're not among them, obviously. But what I would ask you is what part of the show you actually liked because anytime when I checked it, I gave it like maybe 4 or 6 episodes, but the one that broke it for me was an episode where like the entire world got like covered in ice, and they were on nothing but green screen the entire time. But you might be asking yourself, but wait, Alexis, doesn't King Oger do the same thing? And to my response to that is, there have been many times in Super Sentai where they did a part of country frozen over, you know.
It's like King Oger uses its chroma technology to build its setting, whereas other series like Senkaiger tend to use green screen not to create a setting for a battle, but just to have a place. It is the difference between a house where you go and a home where you live.
Yeah, and that's uninspired to me. And the fact that, like, there's only like two...
Plum Fadoodle, is nostalgia baiting in this case really that bad? Zenkaiger was an anniversary season. So was Gokaiger, but Gokaiger's nostalgia was based off of themes and continuing character stories more than it was just straight up calling up suits to rip them off. Like, Gokaiger might have had the Gokai change gimmick, but that was not the core element of the series. If the Gokai change was all people really cared about in watching it, and that was the entire intrigue and merit to it, then Megaforce would have done better. Instead of being inarguably the worst Power Ranger series ever made.
And, like, Zenkaiger has
that same problem with it, where it's doing all the nostalgia baiting, but not really understanding the core merits of Super Sentai in doing so, because it was written by people who had not really been that deeply into the franchise in comparison to Naruhisa Arakawa, who had worked on Super Sentai consistently since the 80s.
And also Zenkaiger, I guess this is the Zenkaiger rant segment of the program.
It's like, there are going to be people who like Zenkaiger, and we cannot argue with them.
We're not saying that you're bad people for liking it, but Zenkaiger's whole premise that all Super Sentai seasons existed in their own parallel dimension directly conflicts. I'm not even talking about Naruhisa Arakawa's seasons. I'm talking about, like,
Sentai's lore master, who he keeps making sure everything is consistent cross series.
But, like, just in general, like, it makes zero sense as to why we're suddenly treating, like, each Sentai season is in its own pocket universe now. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and in the 40s, they actually did walk that back with one of their alternate universes being Super Sentai Topia, where every single Super Sentai series that was dispatched into its own universe actually occurs as one single timeline, aka the normal Toei universe that they observe.
Right, and it's just...
But you can't really have it both ways, even if people like... Stay Caesar and whatnot with his stuff. The fact that the character that was supposed to be the series-long antagonist actually became the most popular character is also itself telling.
Also, 5D Review points out, also most of the Zenkaiger members were pointless. It was all about the humans ignoring the robots in the Kikai Sentai.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason why they went with just full suit actors for everything around side Kaito, so they would run into less the red overshadows everything problem that had been a major critique of the past couple seasons. Digitoku Kamara does that too, right? Where they overfocus on a character. The title character is the title character.
Yeah.
So even if it becomes an ensemble like Saber or Geats or Exade, it's still centrally the title character story.
Right. But yeah, so we have to ask ourselves the question, what is the bottom of Donate?
Yeah. Unfortunately, if we say Zenkaiger, it's like we'd have to link both of them because it's two forms of the same unit.
Right.
So it just becomes a question of what is worse.
I want to say the Kaito form, you know, or
yeah.
The reason I'm saying we should put that in Donate is it is just the dude blown up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not doing anything unique. It's just him. He looks like that when he's small, and he looks like that when he's big. It's not doing anything superb.
Yeah. DJ Toku was asking about the continuity change of our Kamara doing that a lot too, right? It changes continuity a lot. It has stuff that has been retconned out of continuity. There have been points where continuity becomes questionable. Basically, since Double, they've been pretty consistent about everything occurring in the same universe. Before that, there were question marks. Obviously, some series are definitively in the same universe, others can't be so, and Zio just mucks everything up, so we can't exactly say that beyond Argle, Flargle, Blargle, damn you, Shirokuro, for making things that should be simple so complicated.
So, anyways, I'm activating my servant skill, Imperial Privilege. You putting Grand Liner on the goat spot. I don't care. No, you put that down, young sir. You put that train in the goat spot. I'm activating Imperial Privilege. You ain't arguing with me on this one, okay? I'm putting my foot down. I am establishing my right as co-host of this program.
You're asserting your dominance.
I'm asserting my dominance before
I'm not arguing it. I'm not arguing. I moved Delta Meg up there as a joke. I really love Grand Liner 2 because of everything it does. Yeah, we put up the chat last time we did a main mecha thing just because we would have duked it out otherwise for Time Robo versus Victory Robo. But again, splitting the difference to Galaxy Mega last time, that was completely fine. But no, Grand Liner is just, it is amazing.
I'm not saying like every Sentai mech needs to be this awesome, but I ask of you, chat, why hasn't Toei tried to do this sort of thing again? And the simple answer is they perfected it so well the first time that any subsequent effort afterwards either falls short or outright sucks. Travilion from Maji Ranger may be a steam-powered, train robo, but it's a bit chunky.
Yeah, the curves they did for it to make it more mystical didn't make it work as effectively. We'll bring this up when we do the secondary and extra mecha list.
Yeah, first all Terror of Death, Hail Queen Lexi. Yes, thank you. I'm slaying. But also, Tokyuger can burn in the trash fires because it's like, Tokyo is you the person watching this, and this is the guy she tells you not to worry about.
I actually think Bill Dio, just for a spoiler for future lists, I don't think Bill Dio is that bad, and Safari Gallo, when I built the mini plot, actually felt like its backpack accessory thing that attached everything else made it look aesthetically better as it balanced it out. But yeah, Tokyuger's mechs were not well designed across the board. Yeah, TTK Blazer, Go-Go 5 is just mecha heaven, period. Yes.
It is. Go-Go 5 is special because all the mechs that it does in that series are wholly unique to it. I have not seen Super Sentai, try to replicate its aesthetics or homage them in any way. Okay, Siren Builder from Bokenger, kinda, but nothing quite like what Go-Go 5 does.
Media reviews, is Go-Go 5 worth watching? I think Go-Go 5's one of the few sub-series Shout Factory's put out that actually did decent subs, mainly because all fan subs of Go-Go 5 before that were absolute garbage.
I really want to watch Go-Go 5.
Yeah, and it's one of the ones they didn't really screw up in comparison to higher quality fan subs for a bunch of the others they've done.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that there is... On that tangent, it is actually genuinely unfortunate that there are still no good translations of Abba Ranger. It's like, how has that happened? How has that been the series that kept falling through the cracks? And it's like, if TV Nihon had started 1 year earlier instead of starting with Deca Ranger, we might have actually... Okay, they wouldn't have been good because that was obviously the early era of fan subbing across the board, and the original people who ran TV Nihon before Takenoko came in, they weren't really good. They were passable, but there's a lot of genuine flaws with that era. But yeah, Shinkener and Ghost Agers, I like Shinkener's mecha. Die Tanken is kind of the meh one of them. Ghost Ager has issues. But yeah, this is I'll call this as a list, and I think we can actually do the 6th Ranger and Extra Ranger mecha one next week. Think we should do that then? Yeah, we will be back next week for probably one of the more anticipated lists beyond the Ultimate and Final Form mecha list.
Oh, and why don't we save this as an image and then
and download.
And I think, for closing thoughts, the secondary mecha's purpose is to not only feed it either to feed into a greater super combination, or to provide the team an asset that they were lacking in the first place.
Yeah.
With like a Sabune here
being the super speedy one.
Like a super speedy one, whereas Cure Major wasn't exactly a speed boy, you know?
And they didn't exactly have higher tier combinations that series.
Yeah, Geki Fire, as much as I was trashing it, like, it at least provides more power than Geki Toja does. It's the big bruiser martial artist, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so, again, we will be here next week. Oh, God, and here will be the problem. We have to talk smack about the consistent about some of the 6th Ranger mecha when most 6th Ranger mecha are actually really good.
So we're gonna have to actually, like...
We're actually gonna have to have a longer discussion with the chat on that.
Like, because there are so many good 6th Ranger mechas, but some are better than others, and we are very biased individuals on some 6th Ranger mechs, so we're gonna have to leave it to you guys to help us, like, you know, who's the best, you know what I mean?
And also, we will have 2 goats and 2 donate members simply because 6th and extra. It's a double category because there's not enough to count otherwise, versus it would be less than this if we split them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you everybody who came by today. We will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. See you then.